The Undercountry Music News is an excerpt of the weekly internet broadcast Undercountry Music, which features music from great country artists you won't hear on mainstream radio, as well as a roundup of the most interesting country music news of the week without all the fluff. This program you're listening to right now contains only the news portion of the show. To listen and subscribe to the full weekly episode containing the music and interviews, please visit undercountry.com or simply subscribe to the Undercountry Music Podcast on iTunes. This week, I'm hanging out with Erich McMann, a country and Americana artist currently out with a new CD entitled The Last American Songbook. Let's get into it.
We can always come back, but let's really try to get this done, And so just on a wing and a prayer and, the hottest day of the year, we laid down all the whole album. So
awesome.
We spent a little time later, just mixing and stuff like that, but the basic tracks, vocals, solos, all done one day.
Nice. Well, that's good news to hear that can happen like that, and you really came out with something really special, I think. But,
Thank you.
That's a nice little segue because, as you're over there working to build your career, I work just as hard here at Undercountry Music to tear down careers of up-and-coming country artists. And would you like to know how I do that?
I'm here. I'm here for you.
I do that with a little segment of the show I like to call the Undercountry Music News. All right, Erich, I think you've heard this show before, right?
Oh, yeah.
So it's a good thing that you're not going for country superstardom right now. At least from some of the things I read, I might be wrong, and we'll touch on that a little bit later, because here on the Undercountry Music News, what it is that I do is that every single week here I go onto the search engine Google, I type in the words country music news, and whatever websites come up on the very front page of Google, I mean, you'd think those would be the quintessential representation of the cream from the top of the milk jug there of what country music has to offer, as far as the news anyway, for that particular week. Wouldn't you think that?
You would think. You would.
Now have you ever
Google.
gone and searched for country music news before?
No, I haven't.
Well, I do it every week, and I got to tell you, I go just about every website that comes up on the front page of Google. It's like People Magazine garbage, it's Taylor Swift's boyfriend and who got her virginity and what does this guy really think about the tightness of Keith Urban's t-shirts and crap like that.
Yeah.
And that's what it's filled with. So my job, I have decided to step forward and boldly go where nobody in the industry of country music dares to go, and that is into the depths of country music news. I put on my diving bell. I put one of those little things that pinch your nose together so water doesn't go up it. And I jump into the waters of country music news. And I dive down, and I find the hidden treasures of country music news. But damn it! I can't get the chest open because I forgot my pry bar. So I go back to the top. I get a couple breaths of air. I grab my pry bar out of the toolbox. Okay, got it. Put my diving helmet back on. I go down to the bottom again. I find the chest of country music news again, and I break open the lock. And I dig through all the captain's logs and all that junk until I find the lost pearls, the golden nuggets, the doubloons, if you will, aye matey, of country music news, and I bring them back to the surface for the listeners of Under Country Music. And that's what I do.
So what'd you dig up this week?
Well, this week. Oh, there's one thing. The damaging career thing, that I don't want to gloss over that real quick. If I go onto a website and I dive and I just can't find bupkis, I give that website one unlucky. The worst representative of country music news every week gets the coveted Under Country Music News Wet Belch of the Week. And today I had a cheeseburger with a fried egg. So,
you're ready.
So I'm ready. I'm ready if you are.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's destroy all your prospects for future label deals and management here. All right. Over at CMT. And by the way, I want you to pipe in on here. I want to hear what your thoughts on the latest in country music news are as well, okay?
All right,
because that's why I call you co-host, not special guest, not interviewee. You're co-hosting here, so you just jump in there and speak your mind. All right. Over at CMT.com, Garth Brooks, he prevails in a lawsuit, and the headline says it was filed by a former business associate. Now, that gets a little murky when I get into the story, and we'll come back to that. But anyway, a federal jury in Nashville has sided with Garth Brooks that $250,000 he sent to the business manager of his former entertainment unit. The lady's name was Lisa Sanderson, and the business unit was called Red Strokes. And apparently, Garth sent her almost $250,000 to cover the expenses of her divorce and child custody legal stuff. And the court sided with Garth Brooks that it was indeed a loan and not a gift. Okay. So the jury made its decision in less than 1 hour at the end of a 3-day trial in U.S. District Court. Kind of sounds like an Erich McMann recording session there. And Garth's email records apparently clearly showed acknowledgement that it was indeed a loan. The article is titled as though Garth was the one being sued, because it says Garth Brooks prevails in lawsuit filed by former business associate. But everything I read makes it sound as though Garth was the one doing the suing to get his money back.
Yeah.
It's typical hack writing by, the people who crank this stuff out, but, what are you going to do?
Sensationalization. They want us to sell top.
Exactly.
Get people to click.
And I clicked.
But that's your job.
It is. I don't get paid for this yet. If I grow my audience a little more, I might be able to start generating a couple nickels here and there. But
it's your mission.
It's my mission. Yes.
Your deep sea diving mission to get the pearls.
That's right. That's correct. Yeah, you got it. All right. Over at countryweekly.com, David Nail's tour bus slides off an icy road and hits the median on its way to have David Nail open up for Darius Rucker on Valentine's Day.
It's not good to crash like that. I slid off the road here in Chicago a couple weeks ago. I thought I'd miss my gig too, but luckily I was able to just spin around and keep going straight. It was crazy. But anyway.
So you just kept doing donuts the whole way there?
Yeah, and it was like a miracle. And no one should have been out. Even the state police were getting stuck. But I had a gig, so my little Honda Civic, I just sort of donutted all the way to the gig. But anyway, so it's bad when it happens.
Yeah, well, the thing is that, you're used to driving on that stuff, so it's a little better because you live in it, because you're being based in Chicago. The problem is, like around Nashville, where we only get snow like maybe once or twice a year, is that we have a lot of people who hardly ever drive on it, and so they don't know how to drive on it, and they start, tooling down the road at full speed, and and they're the ones that, cause other people to have wrecks, and they wreck themselves and wreck others. So
bad things.
Exactly.
Yeah, bad things happen. Yeah.
But.
Well, yeah. What happened with the tour bus? What happened then?
Well, because it was Valentine's Day, and David did not break his heart, but he did break his bus. But the knight in shining armor came galloping to his rescue in the form of Darius Rucker's tour bus.
Nice.
Darius Rucker sent his tour bus from the venue over to the crash site, picked up David Nail and the crew, got him to the gig, and the show went on.
God bless him. If it was me, I would have sent my helicopter, though. I would have. Well, probably weather conditions wouldn't have allowed Darius to send his helicopter, so the tour bus was awesome.
Yeah. Can you imagine?
Well, Taylor Swift would have sent her helicopter.
I know she would have.
So, rock on, Darius.
Also, Joey and Rory welcome their new baby girl, Indiana.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, apparently they had a state.
Yeah.
And it's a neighboring state to you.
Yeah. Well, she'll always have a name you could remember then.
I certainly hope so. Anyway, over at GAC, this week they are featuring their GAC personality, Nan Kelley, and her collection of single pan recipes. Nan's nickname is One Pan Nan.
Oh, wow.
And this week she's...
I never met her yet.
Yeah, well, she does like all the interviews and stuff on GAC.
Okay.
Yeah, seems like a nice lady. I've never met her either. But she's making chili over there at GAC. And you know what I noticed? What was missing at GAC this week? Normally, they have a recipe section from Crystal Keith, who is Toby Keith's daughter, and it's called Crystal in the Kitchen, or Crystal Keith in the Kitchen, something like that. Look at my memory. I don't even, one week, and I don't know. And this week, Crystal Keith in the Kitchen is not over there, but they do have One Pan Nan making chili. What is going on?
Deal.
Crystal Keith gotten the boot? I don't know. But anyway, the recipe this week is chili. All right.
That's good.
And that's a nice segue into tasteofcountry.com. That makes a nice segue, doesn't it?
Perfect.
Yeah, okay. This week, Billy Dukes, Taste of Country reporter, talks about why country music needs Billy Ray Cyrus and his new version of Achy Breaky Heart.
Okay, I gotta hear this.
No, that was pretty much, he expounds on it. You can go over there and there's a video, you click and listen to him state his reasons. What he said was it's important to have these fringe artists because it takes country music places where it otherwise wouldn't go. And in this case, might not be a great place, but what he says is it paves the way for country to go other places, and that maybe somebody will sort of, use a little bit of Billy Ray's nudging to do something that people actually want to hear that's sort of one toe in that direction instead of an entire twerking ass.
I gotcha, yeah.
All right. And just about every comment that was left there on that article by readers, was pretty much booing this guy and thumbs downing him about his perspective. I did some feedback on there, and I said, I actually like that guy's reporting. He's got an interesting perspective over there. Billy Dukes, probably my new favorite reporter over at Taste of Country.
Yeah, well, I was reading an article recently by Clay Walker, and he sort of said the same thing, and I can see from a business perspective, selling tickets and all that stuff. But I doubt very likely that anybody who listens to the hip-hop version of Achy Breaky Heart is going to try to find Hank Williams' greatest hits. So, but it is what it is. So.
It is the worst song and video that I've ever heard that I could not stop watching.
I haven't clicked yet, so I haven't checked it out. So.
Well, the song sucks. It's the video that you got to watch.
Okay. All right. Well then.
I mean, the video sucks too, but it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion. You can't take your eyes off of it.
Well, I'll check it out then.
All right. Over at theboot.com.
Just for the comic value.
Yes. Yes, Billy Ray Cyrus is carrying an acoustic guitar case in the video and pulls a Gibson SG out of it.
Oh.
Like one of the skinniest guitarists. Only a guitar player would appreciate that.
Yeah. I got it, yeah.
Okay.
It's like the people playing at the Super Bowl and stuff like that with no cords plugged in and stuff, or One Direction, the guitar player with no cord.
Well, exactly, but you know what? I'm going to expound on that a little bit. The Chili Peppers Flea said, normally they don't do that, but, it was the Super Bowl, once-in-a-lifetime thing. They couldn't plug in, and he said, oh, screw it, make an exception and just go with it this time, because, they really, because of the logistics of having live instruments. But then I started thinking, wait a minute. I was actually buying it, and it just hit me the other day. What about when Prince did the Super Bowl halftime? He was really playing his guitar. You could tell. That is not.
You can tell.
Yeah, he was actually playing his guitar. So that's not necessarily true. So it's a sliding scale, apparently. If you're the leader of the headlining act and your thing is playing that instrument, then, I think they let you play the instrument and they do it. But I think all practical purposes, I guess they paid less respect to Mr. Flea there, especially since he was not the headlining act. It was Bruno Mars was the main show. So.
Exactly.
So it is not true that they won't send an instrument through. It is true that they didn't for them.
Yeah, it's just part of the new sort of, music business thing where it's all based on, theatrics, like shooting fire out of your boobs and stuff like that,
Wow.
That's cool.
Who shoots fire out their boobs?
Katy Perry.
Oh, yeah, she does.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So the other player guitar isn't that important more, or even, is to shoot fire out of your boobs, I guess.
Well, you know what? I'm going to shoot fire out of my boobs. I've decided that's the direction I'm going. If that's what it takes, damn it, that's what I'm going to do. Boob Fire Express. There you go, Neal. Boob Fire Neal Smith right here. It's my new name.
And then we'll be like in we'll have helicopters then.
Yep.
We'll fly.
In my case, it would be Moob Fire Neal Smith.
Yeah.
All right, enough of this.
Anyway, yeah.
Over at theboot.com, Tracy Lawrence receives the Independent Artist of the Year Award at the 2014 Music Row Country Breakout Awards on February 18th in Nashville. Tracy Lawrence is an independent artist? Time marches on.
I don't know.
He's had some pretty big hits here,
Yeah, it's true, yeah.
So he's basically getting an award for being dropped by his label.
Well, that's the music business.
All right, hey, whatever. And the Bellamy Brothers make history by being the first country act to ever tour Sri Lanka and India.
Well, that's cool.
And apparently the places that they played were just completely sold out. Just wall-to-wall people sweating curry paste.
They love the country. That's the United States' biggest export right now is Nash pop.
Yeah, well, Bellamy Brothers aren't really pop. I guess they were pop back in their day, though.
Oh yeah. No, I'm just saying. When you hear about all like Taylor Swift and stuff like that going, all over the place, and the groups like that. But for them to do a gig like that, that's awesome.
Now, are you planning on marching the last American songbook overseas at all yourself?
Well, I just finished blasting out like a couple hundred copies to radio, and it's getting a good response. Getting a lot of airplay all over the world. So I'd love to go to Europe and travel and play country music. That would be awesome. If the opportunity comes, I'm there.
Now, when you say you blasted out 200 copies, does that mean that you're still pressing actual physical CD copies, putting them in a bubble pack, and physically mailing them? Or is there a more efficient, modern, and electronic method of delivery that's being used these days?
Well, you can do both, but it just seems really for the DJs, who are liking the country music, they want the old-fashioned physical copies. So, I had to, during the last polar vortex here in Chicago, I just hunkered myself down and just, with the CDs and the bubble envelopes and the postage and just the old school way and mailed them out. Went to the post office, had to stand in line for like an hour while people were getting mad at me. So I was sending all these, international things and put the big postage bill on my credit card, and now I'm number one in Tunisia. So
yeah, a lot of country artists, what they'll do is they'll go and they'll pay to have their songs over like on CDX, the electronic distribution there, for stations to grab. But you're finding now, have you done the CDX thing yet?
No, I haven't done that, but I've through Bandcamp and just file sharing things, I've done that. But really, when I talk to most of the DJs, though, that maybe it's a old school thing, they like the physical copies, and so I just did it. That's what they requested. So
you see, I'm the exact opposite way, because you know what, I just know you send me this stuff, I'm going to end up with piles of stuff just sitting around, and while I love independent music, quite honestly, I don't have time to sit around and listen to everyone's disc. I click around online and something grabs me. Okay, then I listen to it through, and then if I think it's appropriate for the show, I ask them, hey, can I play it on my show? But the last thing I want is piles and piles of plastic discs laying around my place that then I've got to figure out what the hell to do with them, And then I got to go, and I totally understand. I have to physically put them in my machine, and I'm always breaking the jewel cases, and I mean, it's just like the tragedies of life.
Yeah, no, I mean, some request that, but most of them in Europe, at least, they just wanted the physical copy. In the States, in America, I did a lot, Bandcamp or MP3s and stuff like that, file sharing. But at least, in Stockholm and Düsseldorf and, Milan, they want the CD, so I did it.
Cool. All right, we're going to move on with the country music news, the under-country music news here. NashvilleGab.com. They've got concert reviews for Chase Rice and also Chris Cagle. The rest of the site is kind of not really much else going on over there this week. And usually I find cool stuff over there. This week they're kind of blah, but not blah enough to get the wet belch. So I give them a pass. Because, they gave a couple, Chase Rice isn't really well known, and they did a concert review for him. So, I thought that was kind of cool. So, they get it. They barely slide under the wire here. All right. Over at CountryMusicIsLove.com, Blake Shelton is going to donate $1. From every fan club pre-sale ticket sold on his 10 times crazier tour to ACM's Lifting Lives Foundation. I have no idea what the ACM Lifting Lives Foundation is. Apparently it's a good cause. I don't know. Maybe they custom make bras for breast cancer survivors or something. I have no idea. But if you go and join Blake's fan club and you buy a pre-sale ticket to his 10 times crazier tour, you'll be donating $1 to an awesome cause, whatever the hell that cause is.
Oh, that's good. Buck is a buck. It all adds up. It all helps.
Yeah. A buck is a buck is a buck is a buck. Good. Nobody remembers that old Donna Summer and Barbara Streisand duet.
Oh, now I got it. There you go. The main event, baby.
Yeah, the main event. I'm actually doing I'm DJing an event on Saturday called The Main Event, and it's for St. Matthew, Maine. And it's a fundraiser over there, and I was thinking about playing that song from that movie, but I just don't think anyone would get it because it's so old. Maybe maybe I'll just take a sound bite from the Barbara Streisand song where she goes, "The main event," and I'll just take that little sound bite and I'll just trigger it every once in a while.
There you go.
All right.
Have a good show. That sounds like a nice gig.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's at the Loveless Barn. So right over there behind the Loveless Cafe, the legendary Loveless Cafe, and I'm really looking forward to that. It will be a place I've never done an event at before, and hopefully it's the start of many.
Yeah, that's cool. Something to look forward to. Yeah, for sure.
Yes. Over at the 615, which is a subsection of billboard.com, there is a new biopic. Now, I thought a biopic was where they take a sample of a cell sample off of you and then they put it in a petri dish and see if you've got cancer.
Yeah.
But apparently that's not what it means in this case. It could mean that. But there's a new biopic. It's kind of means, in this case, it means the life story coming out about the life of Greg Allman.
All right.
Yeah. That's good life there. I mean, I
had quite an adventure. Yeah.
Hey, he banged Cher.
Yeah.
Hey, that alone makes a book.
Yeah.
Anyway,
he's good. I love his music. With him solo and the Allman Brothers. It's good stuff. So.
Yeah, you know what? I actually have some brides and grooms because I'm a wedding DJ. I actually asked for that song "Soul Shine" for sometimes for some of their special dances. Yeah,
Greg Allman too. I mean, besides all of his escapades, and he's just a great singer. His voice is so awesome. So, something to look forward to. Hope they do a good job. A great artist like that.
Yeah, they got a couple different actors. One to play the young Greg Allman, one to play the old Greg Allman, and I don't remember who's playing what, but you can read all about that over at the 615. All right. You know what time it is?
Oh, what time is it?
It's Country Standard Time over at countrystandardtime.com. That belch sounded a little forced, didn't it? It didn't sound so wet.
That was that cheeseburger?
Yeah, that was the Undercountry Music News. Well, wet belch of the week. This week it was kind of a dry belch though. So I guess they didn't even get the moisture this week. I mean, when you don't even qualify for a full-on wet belch. I mean, come on. Guys, put some effort into your suckness. Over at countrystandardtime.com this week, the most interesting thing I could find was an article about the debut of an act called the Cadillac 3. Oh, look, I got more of it. Oh, there. Anyway, okay, let me read this to you. I'll show you just how bad the writing is, okay? The Cadillac 3 are out with its debut. Wouldn't the Cadillac 3 would be out with their debut?
You would think.
Anyway, the Cadillac 3 are out with its debut. I guess Cadillac 3 is a singular group, so it's the name. So I guess that's correct. I won't tag them on that. Cadillac 3 are out with its debut single, The South, Florida Georgia Line, Dierks Bentley, and Mike Eli of Eli Young Band. I read that verbatim. It doesn't say...
I'm confused.
Yeah, it doesn't say comprised of members of these groups.
Yeah.
I'm gonna read that sentence again. The Cadillac 3 are out with its debut single, The South, Florida Georgia Line, Dierks Bentley, and Mike Eli of Eli Young Band. And I'm going to continue here, okay? The band consists of Nashville natives Jaron Johnston, Footar, and lead vocals. That's right, Footar.
They don't even know what spell check is, or
I
they don't know how to use Word.
Kelby Ray, bass, steel guitar, dobro, acoustic vocals, and Neil Mason, drums, percussion, and vocals. I think these guys are all, members of the backing bands of Florida Georgia Line, Dierks Bentley, and Mike Eli of the Eli Young Band. So that's what I'm guessing here. But anyway, that was the most interesting thing over there, and even that was all freaking jacked up. So for that reason, they did get the Undercountry Music News Wet Belch of the Week. Congratulations, Country Standard Time. Did you like the belch? Was it a good belch?
It was perfect.
Oh, perfect belch. Okay, if you're like an Olympic belching judge, what number would you hold up for that belch?
I would give that a gold. You get the gold medal.
The gold belching? Hey, I'm a gold medal belcher.
Going with the Olympic fever.
All right. Anyway, this has been your Undercountry Music News. Thank you for listening to the Undercountry Music News. The Undercountry Music News is just a small excerpt of the weekly hour-long internet broadcast Undercountry Music, where I, Neal Smith, not only round up the week in country music news and put my own spin on it, but I also play music and have great interviews by lesser-known original country acts, the kind that you won't hear on mainstream country radio. If you're thirsting for that, get on over to undercountry.com where you can listen and subscribe. You can also subscribe via iTunes to Undercountry Music. Thanks so much. Stay under, stay country.